What if Trump was right when he said there are very fine people on both sides? Now, before you go, well, I've not had enough of this, I'm turning it off, that's ridiculous. Just please be patient for a moment. Last night, I'm a little emotional right now. Last night was a very powerful and proud moment for me. As a leader, as a mentor, as somebody who leads leaders, part of my external purpose is to impact the lives of those who will never know my name, or who may never know my name, whose names I may never know. Last night I got an opportunity to speak, but I wasn't on the stage alone. I shared the stage with Tony McAleer. Tony McAleer is the author of a new book called The Cure for Hate. I highly recommend you go get it. I actually wrote the introduction to the book. And the reason I want you to get it is because it may help you to understand that statement. Now, when Trump said there were very fine people on both sides, I don't think for a moment, so please understand that, I don't think for a moment he meant it in the way that I'm talking about. You see, Tony McAleer, the author of The Cure for Hate and the co-founder of Life After Hate, has been a friend of mine for many years. He started off as a student of mine. He came in to see me because he had been a radical neo-Nazi. Yes, he'd been to Canada's Supreme Court twice. This was a radicalized individual who was helping radicalize others. We sat on the stage together in front of many people from 3 different generations. And part of that 3 generations was his 2 children, who are now adults, one of whom has a baby, and his mom, Tony, and I, and a whole audience. And we talked about his life being in the white supremacist movement and how he had moved out of that and how he had found what it took to get him out of that. Now, those people in that room were not there to listen to me. They were there to listen to Tony, and I was honored to be asked to share the stage with him so that I could share my impact on his journey. The truth is, there are many people who Tony is making a massive shift in their life. They'll never know my name. It's okay. I may never know their name. That's okay. What is important is that he's teaching compassion. At the end of the night, we had a Q&A, and somebody asked, they wanted to understand how to be better at this, because a lot of what we were talking about seemed idealistic, they said, and how do we make this into a practicality? And my answer was, my sign-off for every one of my podcasts is, stay curious, my friend, stay curious. We can only have greater levels of compassion if we stay curious. Will you stay curious? That's what I asked her. Will you stay curious? She talked about how somebody she knew was a complete climate denier. And I said, well, instead of making that person wrong, why don't you get curious about why they believe that? Furthermore, why don't you get curious about why you believe that there is a climate crisis? I'm not saying there isn't. I'm saying get curious, as opposed to just taking on ideas, which is what we do. We look at other people as the enemy. We look at people as wrong, and we see ourselves as right. But the truth is that growth, development, compassion can only come from a deeper level of curiosity. There are good people on both sides, because below the ideology is a human being. And if you can touch the human being, everything else falls away. I feel a little bit like a proud dad today, because I sat on the stage yesterday with Tony McAleer as he held his brand new book, The Cure for Hate, that chronicles his journey from being a neo-Nazi to becoming a father, to me and him sitting together as I helped to de-radicalize him, to him and I sharing the stage at the UN and talking about radicals and white supremacy and all those kinds of things, to him now sitting in front of a university room full of students of every ethnicity you could imagine, all getting the message that we need deeper levels of compassion. I want to thank you for listening to and watching this particular podcast, this particular video today. And I want to ask you to please stay curious, my friend, stay curious about how you're prejudging the person rather than their ideology, rather than the person themselves, rather than the humanity. Try to find the humanity in yourself, get curious about yourself, and get curious about others. My name, in case you don't know, is Dov Baron, and I'm the founder of FullMontyLeadership.com.